beautiful soul. Welcome back to another episode of Intuitive Creator Spotlight, where we will have incredible guests who have transformed their lives and now embrace the path of helping other people transform their lives too. I am Stella, your host, and if you're new to this channel, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, like this video, watch it, let us know your thoughts, and connect with myself and my guests here. Today, we have as guest Mrinal. Mrinal is a karma coach with fascinating background in both science and spiritual healing. I am so happy to have you here today, Mrinal, and I cannot wait to talk about your story and your experience in this interview.
Thank you so much for having me, Stella. I'm so glad to be here because I can talk underwater about what I love to do. So, chatting about it is my favorite thing to do. I'm glad we're having this
Yes.
conversation.
Absolutely. We could just chat for hours about all of these beautiful things that you're creating and you're working on, and the healing that you have done for yourself, and also the healing that you're sharing with the world. But I also know that before you decided to fully embrace spiritual practices, you also focused a lot on your science part of the journey. How did that happen to go from science to spiritual practices or healing?
Wasn't easy because I studied science, so I have my bachelor's in science. Um, and then I went and did my postgrad diploma in marketing management. So very logical and show me kind of work. And I wasn't going to go into the spiritual world, the woo-woo world, without something big happening. And that big did happen. So I got married to my husband and I was riding pillion on his motorcycle in Delhi. Delhi roads aren't the best. Well, no roads in India are the best, but Delhi particularly. And we went over a speed breaker at speed. Not just that, there was a pothole right in front of the speed breaker, and I was like bounced and I had some kind of compression. Something happened in my back and I could not walk without pain. I had to give up my job. I was bedridden. It was a struggle to even move from the bedroom to the kitchen or the dining table. Um, and this went on for several months, and I did some yoga and I got a little bit better, but not 100%. And this friend of mine came and said, I've just been to a Reiki workshop. It's amazing. And I've enrolled you into the next one, the one that's happening the next weekend. So just rock up. And I was like, ooh, okay, what's the worst that can happen? It won't work. I won't like it. I'll just walk out, but I'll give it a shot. So I went there, and the Reiki master teacher said, there is a meditation that I run during the Reiki class. You have to sit cross-legged on the floor. It's actually a meditation by Osho, and it's called Nada Brahma. And he said you have to sit cross-legged on the floor and it'll kill you. You can't lean against the wall. But if you get through that 1 hour, your backache will be gone. So I sat cross-legged with like this much space between me and the wall. I was like, worst case, I'll just fall back and stop. And I started. And within the first couple of minutes, I actually did fall back, but not intentionally. I was like, I fell back, my head rolled to the side, my tongue was out, my feet got stretched, and I felt myself shifting out of my body. And then I was looking at myself and everyone else in the room from above. So that was my first out of body experience. And my science brain was going, oh, this can't be happening. This can't be real.
Mhm.
But then it was happening. And it was so fascinating. So, it took me a while to marry both of those, but I was curious enough to explore it further. So that started my journey, honestly.
Wow.
So kicking and screaming from science to spirituality.
Sometimes we talked just before we started this interview how sometimes there will be these big events in our life that would almost like make you focus on what your soul wants you to focus on. And yes, we don't like it's in our human nature that we want to always experience these comfort spaces and not to take ourselves too much out of comfort zone. And sometimes we will, but when we are meant to learn something important, then these events will come in. And I just love how you described how you were so close to the wall and then you decided to continue with this exercise. And this is just showing how, yes, there is a lot of healing happening, even when you do experience pain. And sometimes it's kind of like you've experienced pain to heal the pain. How did that feel like afterwards when you started reflecting on everything?
Look, I'll be honest, to this day, I sometimes question myself because sometimes my sciencey brain still kicks in and I'm like, Mrinal, what is this reality that you're in? Is this reality? Or, is this dream world? Is this all, happening? Um, but on reflection, I can see how I was led to this point. Because sometimes, as you said, pain and trauma occurs in order to force yourself to go on a different path, which is actually the gift for you. So I have my husband to thank for this because of his writing, I suppose. Um, it's brought me to this point because had that accident not happened, I would not have found this path and I would not be here today, like 25 years later, doing all that I do and healing myself and facilitating healings for others. So I'm very grateful for that pain that started all this.
Mm, it is fascinating when we look at our journey like that. And this is when you can continue to be grateful for absolutely every experience in your life, because every single experience comes with so much for us to learn from. So I know that after you've experienced this kind of healing, you continued with like exploring different modalities, including acupuncture and crystal dreaming. Can you tell us like what inspired you to go down that path as well?
So because I got so enamored and in love with Reiki because of the healing that it offered me, I became a master teacher of Reiki back in India before I moved to Australia. And then when I moved to Australia, and that was when I was doing a muggle job. So I was in advertising and marketing. And I tried to find work in that area when I came to Australia, but um, there were a lot of obstacles to that. And then I asked myself and my spiritual team and in my meditations, like, what is this? What am I meant to do? Like if getting a role and a job in advertising and marketing, which is what I've been doing all this time, isn't working out, what else am I meant to do? So in the meantime, I had been introduced to the channelings of Cryon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but Cryon is an entity, a magnetic master, and he did many channelings um, for that time. That was right for that time. And he talked about melding modalities and changes going to happen. And he talked about intentions of clearing our contracts so that, we move on to the next phase of our evolution, of our soul's evolution. And so I had done all of that. So I kind of was accepting of the fact that, okay, this is probably going to cause a big change. And I was open to it. And then I was guided to study acupuncture here in Australia after coming here. So I did. And then that led me to run my own acupuncture practice. And then I did my master's in Chinese herbs as well. And along the way, I was still always practicing Reiki. And even when I opened my own clinic, I was offering Reiki. And during that, I started getting messages. And it was like, again, me questioning myself, are these messages real? Are they from the past, present, future? Like, what do they mean? Because I couldn't make sense of it. And there was this little figure, a blue figure dressed like a Greek soldier's outfit, who would jump into my Reiki sessions and sometimes go inside my client's body, especially those with complex issues, and do whatever something inside and come out and smile and go, it's done. And I'm like, who are you? And I was asking these questions, and then I came across Doreen Virtue was going to run. She's on a different path now, but that's okay, her path. But she was going to run a workshop on angel work, angel intuitive here in Australia. And I was like, "Oh, that's what I need to do. I'm going to get my answers there." So I went there. So that's another modality, like, introduction to the angel world and tarot and oracle cards. Um, and then I did all of that, and I started incorporating that in my clinic, offering that service. And still, there was some part of me that was thinking, oh, there's more, there's more. And then the global financial crisis hit, and I had to close down my clinic and take up a job. But before I took up a job, after I did this angel work with Doreen Virtue, there's this guy called a master called Raim Richards here in Australia. And he used to write articles in a holistic magazine about his clients and how he facilitated shamanic journeys and took him to the client's past lives, and he was able to clear attachments and vows and amazing for any blocks that people had in their current lives. This crystal dreaming shamanic journey would take them to their origin, and it used to be weird and wonderful sometimes, and they would get healed and meet their spiritual teams. And I was like, and then one day he offered to run a class teaching other people how to do it, and I was like, yes, I'm there. And so every time it's something that sang to my heart, because there's so many modalities that you see, but these particular things always sang to my heart, and I went, yes. And it was a call that I could not resist, and that's how I ended up doing everything that I do. So from Reiki to meeting the angel world to facilitating shamanic crystal dreaming journeys. And that's where I learned, the karmic impacts of our past lives that still linger in the current lives, and going to that origin where they actually began that lifetime, and healing and clearing it there can have a domino effect and do such wonders in our current lifetime, so many improvements. So that's where I am.
I love listening to you, and I love listening to how you share your stories, because you do that with so much love and kindness and just joy. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. All of these are different modalities and systems that we connect with. And I can totally relate to that. You cannot ignore the calling. Like when it's there, when it's meant for you to learn that thing, it just happens and you cannot ignore that. You just go, it's like a big, beautiful wave that takes you there and you learn that modality. But then every single time you learn something new, you understand more about what is your energy doing for the world and what your soul is doing for the world. Yes, there are different systems, but there is something that your soul is consistently doing while learning all of these different things. So, my question to you is, what do you think your energy and your beautiful soul are doing in this existence for the humankind or for this universe or for this planet or the world?
So a couple of things. I think I will say that I like to spread joy, and that joy comes from helping people find peace and serenity in their life. And that works out through several ways. So the crystal dreaming also introduced me to the world of crystals. And, it's my life's joy. The sparkling crystals can clear so much and bring so much joy to people, along with the karma clearing that crystal dreaming can achieve. And I see people sit up after a session, and they're in person, they're in remote. So the good thing, again, the gift in me having to close my clinic is now I'm able to reach a worldwide audience because I'm not stuck to one place. I'm available online to anyone and everywhere. Um, but people, when they sit up after a session, you can see they look different. It's like, weight of lifetimes has fallen off their shoulders, and they go, and you see that peace within themselves because they found insights and they found answers to something that was niggling away. You can live your daily life happily, and you can put on your masks and you can enjoy life, and all of that, but there's sometimes this keeps gnawing away at the back of your mind, and that's gone. And that gives them so much joy. The future looks different. Their attitude changes, their approach changes. And with that joy, they attract more joy in their lives. So I'm going to say, with all the karma coaching and all of the other work that I do, I think the prime thing is helping people regain that joy and peace in their lives.
And that's so healing and so needed. And thank you so much for doing that. Now, I know that you mentioned a lot about crystal dreaming and that this is a unique shamanic technique that you are using in your work. Can you share with us, for everyone who's watching, maybe they're thinking, hey, that sounds intriguing. I would love to connect with Mrinal and see if that can benefit me. How would you explain this, and what kind of effect does it have on somebody's journey or healing journey or growth?
So crystal dreaming is this charm. It's been around for about 30 years, and it was channeled and brought to this earth in this timeline by Ray Richards, who is Australia based. And I was lucky enough to be one of his early students. So I've learned, just like in Reiki, there are levels. So level 1, face to face, level 2, advanced, was remote. And level 3 was teacher training. So I'm a trained teacher as well, and I can train others to do what I do with crystal dreaming. So in crystal dreaming, there is a specific layout of crystals. And when the client steps into that specific crystal layout or a mandala, it's like a portal. It allows them to access the superconscious. And anything that's bothering them or niggling away at them, um, that they have not managed to shift, or they clear it for some time and it comes back, whether it's physical or emotional or um, spiritual or mental, doesn't matter. If it keeps coming back, if it's stubborn, chances are that there's some trauma stuck in their body, some emotion from some timeline that has created such a big impact on them that it's stuck, and it needs to be healed. And until it is healed and it's brought out into the open and addressed, lifetime after lifetime, they might experience similar patterns. And so if they come to me for a crystal dreaming session, or if they even are hearing this conversation that we are having today, it means they have done lifetimes of work already, and they've reached a point where they are now able to consider the possibility of karmic impacts and the possibility and potential of clearing those karmic debts and karmic traumas and karmic bonds and karmic wounds. So that's a huge evolution of the soul to even be listening to this conversation and figuring out that there is such a possibility. So just to give you a story, because I demonstrate best with stories, so one of my one of the stories. So one of the stubborn things is if there's a physical issue that keeps reoccurring, or some complex condition that normal medicine has not been able to treat, for example. Um, that's something that we can bring to crystal dreaming and see where that's originating from. And this particular client of mine, um, they came to me and they always had issues. Um, let's say, for example, they always had issues with their knee. They kept falling down. So from an electric scooter, they fell down, and that got better. And then they twisted their foot and fell down again, and again hurt their knee. And then they were playing football and they tore their knee ligament or whatever, constantly. So things heal, but constantly that same part of the body is getting hurt. That's the body saying, look here, there's something stuck here that you need to heal. So that's one. And then if we go there and ask to be shown the origin of that, chances are there'll be some lifetime where something has happened. Either they have hurt someone, or and they need to ask for forgiveness, or they have been hurt, they need to offer forgiveness, um, get insights on what actually caused that issue in that original timeline. Um, and then very often it has an impact on the current lifetime. There was a client of mine who didn't tell me anything about their injury or any problem with their elbow. They just came for a crystal dreaming session, and we just did it because they said, oh, there's nothing in particular, let's just see what comes up. um, and then in that lifetime we found out that they were uh, percussion, like the drums that you sit down cross-legged on the floor and play like that, in India, in some kind of Maharaja or king's court. And there was this festival, and all the ladies of the court were dancing. But because of the cultural taboos at the time, the rest of the people weren't supposed to look at the ladies dancing. And this person, for some reason, they raised their head and they had a quick look. And the king or the Maharaja, whoever that was so infuriated, wanted to make an example of this person, and they cut off their arm at the elbow. And so we cleared all of that, we sorted all of that in that lifetime. And then after the end of the session, when we debriefed, this person shared with me, you know what? I play that tabla even in this lifetime. And always my left hand, I have to force it to keep up with my right hand. So it always feels like, it's not flowing. Um, and then a few days later, they called me and said, you know what? Now I don't feel any difference between my right and left arms when I'm playing. Um, so I didn't even know that they had something wrong with their elbow, but it came up. So
Yeah,
weird and wonderful things like that.
they are absolutely wonderful. And like you said, if somebody who's listening to this conversation has any kind of sensation or memories, even flashbacks, anything, pay attention to that. Reach out to Mrinal, ask her the question. You can check out the description of this video to know how to connect with her, because these things are not talked about in school, when we just go to the shop, when we go on with our normal life, how have our normal routines. We don't talk about these things. And then when something hurts, you just go to the doctor or to the pharmacy, take a pill and whatever, and just like fixing the pain. But when you go deeper into the spiritual meaning of what your body is trying to communicate with you, then this is truly fascinating. And then there is this element that you can only do that when you feel ready to open up to what's there. Because, like with your client, this lifetime is there somewhere in the space for her to access, but she can only access it when she's ready to face that truth and see what exactly happened there. So, to those people who are watching us and they're thinking, this sounds interesting. And if I go forward with this kind of experience, I might find out something really interesting, but I am not sure. I want to see that. I still have a bit of fear. I want to do it, but I'm doubtful. What kind of message would you share with them?
So when I do any kind of healing facilitation, I always invoke the client's spiritual team to connect with me and my spiritual team so we can achieve outcomes that are for their divine highest good. And with the protection of the spiritual team, it is a very safe space that's created. They cannot be harmed. I am also an experienced facilitator. I have encountered um, intense and sometimes very difficult situations as well. Um, sometimes there's attachments, and you have to negotiate the relays. Um, So I bring my experience, and I have been told by clients, some of whom have felt that fear stepping into this and anxiety stepping into this kind of session, that they felt very reassured by the confidence with which I lead the session and I anchor that space. Um, and I somehow know the right things to offer and say and suggest at the right time. And I have not had anyone come out of the session going, I'm still afraid, and that was terrifying, and I wish I had never done it. Not one person has said that to me.
And yeah, you share a lot of confidence and a lot of love for what you do. And I can only imagine the amount of healing you have done for your own beautiful soul to get to the place where you're like, okay, now I feel ready to serve the world because yes, it takes a lot of work. And sometimes it's like, oh, why again and again and again? And we talked about all of these signs that are happening in this human existence, like light going off or whatever. That's like, no, you have to focus. No, you have to focus on your own healing. And we have to honor that as facilitators as well. So now I know we talked about crystal dreaming and crystals. And I also know you facilitated a beautiful guest expert training for us in our community about crystals. There is this idea of programming a crystal for something. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So crystals have their own energy as well. I feel that they're living, vibrating um, entities in themselves, you know. It's not just inanimate rock. It carries energy within it. And the universe has created this wonderful synchronization between crystals and humans, where the crystals are able to sync their energy with us so that we can transform in certain ways. So each crystal has a purpose to itself, just like we as human beings. We come to Earth with a certain purpose, right? And that purpose can be big or small. It can be for someone to lead the first world, like be the most influential person in the world, or it can be just someone who brings up their child in such a way that that child's descendants then have the capacity to become leaders of the world, right? So our influence can be big or small in each lifetime, but it whatever that path is, it's important. Similar to that, each crystal has its own purpose, its own sphere of influence, things that it can um, achieve or help us achieve. So we can harness that energy of the crystal. The quartz, the clear quartz crystal, is called a master crystal. So it's a crystal of all crystals. It is clear, and it can take on the energy of any other crystals. It can enhance the energy and the effects of any other crystals, or you can use the clear quartz itself and imbibe it with the intention of any energy that you want to manifest. So the programming process is very simple. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I can send them a PDF on how to program a crystal. But you can program a crystal to say, every time you have a headache, you can program that crystal to say, oh, when I hold this crystal, my headache will feel less bothersome, or I will still be able to function, or it will be gone in a very short time compared to usual. You can program that intention, or you can program an intention for yourself to say, when I hold this crystal, I can form a deeper connection. I form a deeper bridge to my spiritual team, and I'm able to hear their messages more clearly. You know, any kind of intention that you want to manifest, you can imbibe it into that clear crystal quartz. It's just beautiful.
It is beautiful, and I know that you're working on something really, really exciting related to crystals. Do you want to share a little bit about that, or is it still a secret?
No, I can share it about that. I would love to. Um, so I'm just back from a 6-month sabbatical, but during that sabbatical, I was given the idea to work on a crystal advent calendar in time for Christmas this year. So I had so much joy finding and sourcing all kinds of crystals. So there's jewelry in there, there's shapes and carvings and, different crystals. Um, so I just, I'm about to, so I have to mail out those packs by middle of November. Um, and I'm really excited to birth that baby, my crystal advent calendar. It is at this point just available to those within Australia. So if there's anyone from Australia who's watching this, they can reach out to me, and, um, ask to have that crystal advent calendar. And um, there's also going to be a Facebook group. So it's not just, okay, here are the crystals and off you go, but there's going to be a Facebook group where I'll go in and talk about the crystal every day. And for our non-Australian friends, if they want to join in, there'll be a very small fee to join that Facebook group, but they can also follow along energetically and virtually with that crystal advent calendar and uncover that crystal every day as well in the lead up to Christmas.
Thank you
So
so
I'm very
much.
excited
Yeah.
with that.
And also, it very much depends on when our viewers will watch this video, because it might be one
True.
year from when we're recording, and you never know what other things beautiful Mrinal created. So make sure you connect with her and see what she's being up to, what other beautiful creations she is sharing with the world. Now, as we are wrapping up this episode, Mrinal, is there a message that you want to share with the world, something that just comes to you in your heart and you want to share with our viewers?
So watch out for those aha moments where your heart sings and don't ignore it, because that's going to be um, the next sign on the path that you're supposed to take. Signs come up when they need to. Like when you start on a journey, you don't see the road all the way to the end, but you get to a certain point and you realize, oh, I got to turn this way and I got to go around here. And so those aha moments where your heart sings and guides you to do whatever it is singing about, those are important. So please, please, please remember to follow those milestones.
This is a beautiful message. Thank you so much, Mrinal. Thank you for your presence in this interview. Thank you for sharing your love with the world. And for everyone who's watching us, connect with Mrinal, like this episode, let us know your thoughts, and subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned for more episodes. Thanks for watching. Bye.